So we talked a little bit about the connection with the audio team. How do you believe the connection to other disciplines, is that any different, or do you use different methods to convey something, or do they just completely trust you?
I mean, there's a in a huge extent there is a lot of trust. I think in the team, also because our team is already it's quite close. I think because everyone works together for quite some time now already. So there's a lot of trust, obviously, but with trust also comes the opportunity to give your opinion to the other. So that's happening a lot now as well, and it really depends. I think there is a noticeable difference in what kind of opinions or what kind of feedback you get from different departments. So, for example, from gameplay or from programming, it can be focused on way different things. Like, for example, how an impact feels satisfying. That's super important for gameplay reasons as well, right? It needs to be satisfying event that's happening there. I noticed that if I get feedback from that side, that it's way more focused on those kind of things, and from the art department, it can be way more about the overall scope, or if it is more stylistic fitting with what we're trying to portray. So, for example, in Deliver Us Mars, we had aesthetic going on, which was a future, but at the same time, it was a future in decay. And there were a lot of almost, not completely, but almost 80, 90 kind of influences in there in some way. And it was not the sci-fi future that you see a lot in sci-fi music, sci-fi games and movies. And we also needed to portray that with sound. And feedback on that we got from the art department mostly, because they were focused on that, and everything more on the gameplay side was obviously coming from the gameplay department. And the other way around, I mean, when I started at Kyoken, I was almost completely focused on sound design and some programming. But because we were with such a small team, sometimes you just have to kind of do other things as well, right? So sometimes I have to do some tasks which involve more programming or are tied into gameplay, and I have to pick up some stuff. So along the way, in a team that we have, it's not a small team, but it's also not a huge AAA team. You develop skills besides your own discipline as well, and that opens up opportunities to also give feedback on the discipline that you are sometimes interfere, or that you get to work in for a little bit. So in terms of programming, or not programming, gameplay a little bit, we had to do some things which were tied into that, and that's really working in that environment for a little bit just gives you a way better understanding of what the other is doing, and it gives you a better it makes you develop an opinion about it way better. And that's also valuable for the other side, I think, because then you have this greater understanding of each other's work, which is important for the whole thing to, give feedback on each other, iterate, and just lift the whole thing up in quality.
You're saying something interesting. It is a little bit of the indie mentality to have people not only as an I-shaped person, meaning you're very specialized in one specific thing. Of course, if you're a AAA studio, you have 400 people working for you, then probably everybody has their own thing. Like I know Gorilla has their own skybox and even cloud designer. And
crazy story.
That's one singular thing that you have. We still have a little bit of that indie mentality. We're a mid-sized studio where we are looking for T-shaped people, meaning they are not only good at one thing, but they can also pick something else up. And for us as that team, that's still necessary and good, because if it ends and the sound design is done, you make yourself obsolete at one point. You don't want that.
No, obviously, yeah.
And there's many tasks to do. So I believe in the size that we have, And I think it's also a little bit of the mindset of the studios, like that you try to make yourself as useful as you can. And sometimes it's also kind of sniffing to a certain discipline, say, hey, I really like this combination. It's not like the beginning where you're like a jack of all trade. Like I was wearing many hats, meaning then you're like the creative director, and then you're the composer, and then you're writing the narrative, and then we're doing some level design, and and that's okay. That's okay because you're small. You need to start somewhere, and then the moment that you get to find people that are better than you should.
Yeah.
Hey there! I appreciate you watching the video. If you like this one, check out this video or that video. And if you want to support the channel, make sure to click on top of my head on the logo and subscribe to the channel.